The stories of environmental devastation, economic and political marginalization suffered by these major tribes inflicted on us by the state and federal government, despite providing over 80% of the economic stay of the state, can only be better imagined. Unfortunately, the value of the 13% derivation funds to the state from 2015 till date, running into trillions of naira, which is supposed to be funds accruable to oil-bearing communities for oil exploration in their lands, resulting to destruction of environment, their only means of livelihood have been unaccounted for. To further worsen the situation, by our political sequence, we have seen a deliberate effort by some of our upland brothers who seem to have taken advantage of our seemingly discordant position with a calculative move to hold onto power for 24 years and deliberately politicizing the development of the state. It has therefore become necessary for us to work together, stand by each other to fight and gain back our socio-economic and political freedom, destiny as a people. Permit me to borrow a leaf from excerpt of my previous advocacy for political equity and fairness in the state. The subject or concept of upland and riverine dichotomy in the political events of River State is nothing new, but dates as far back to the era just after the creation of River State. Ideally, in a sane democratic climate, the most suitable qualified person emerges as the leader of the people based on popular vote in a free, fair and credible election. Such leader leads, accommodating all interests and divides, no matter which tribe he or she comes from. In the case of River State, if such leader sees everybody, whether from riverine or upland, as his constituents, and evenly spread development to every part using the best hands in all the projects executed, the need for riverine and upland dichotomy may not be necessary canvas. Let me take you down memory lane on how the issue of upland riverine dichotomy in River State first began. The agitation for an upland riverine dichotomy started during the twilight of the first military governor of Old River State, Lieutenant Commander Alfred Delta Spieth administration, when he reshuffled his cabinet and dropped 7 commissioners. Incidentally, the 7 commissioners dropped were all from the mainland section of the state, including Dr. Obiwale and Ken Saruwiwa of blessed memory. These commissioners had then perceived the action of the then governor as being undue victimization and marginalization by reason of their being from a particular section of the state, while their counterparts, mostly from the riverine Ejo majority, were favored. Angered by the development, the Dao ganged up and fought back against what they called the marginalization of the upland section of the state. This gave birth to the concept of upland and riverine segregation and led to the agitation of the creation of Port Harcourt State. Obiwale and Ken Saruwiwa of blessed memory used the upland riverine divide as a defining terminology to describe the Ejos and their mainland neighbors in the Old River State. They used this definitive terminology as a campaign tool against the perceived domination of the political landscape at the time by the riverine Ejos in the affairs of the Old River State. Thus, the upland riverine concept was coined out of protest by the upland co-indigents of the state. In order to douse the tension created by the crisis of agitation for a Port Harcourt state and the disunity it caused among the people, the political leadership at the time came up with the concept of power rotation based on the upland riverine dichotomy to ensure equity and harmonious coexistence amongst the upland and riverine majority people of Old River State. This This was the advent of a deliberate sharing formula for major elective and appointive positions among the upland and riverine people of the state. This concept entailed that where the governor of the state comes from the upland, for instance, the deputy governor would be selected from the riverine, as well as other positions like the speaker of the state assembly, head of service, and other sensitive political offices distributed according to the upland riverine arrangement to create a balance. It is, however, important to note here that this agitation mostly centered on the need for inclusiveness in the affairs of governance of the state, and not about underdevelopment or infrastructural deficit in the upland. This is because the then military governor Alfred Chesapeake, who was from the riverine, channeled the resources of the state to executing what can be best described as a phenomenal project mostly cited in Port Harcourt, the state capital, which has outlived successive administrations today. Some of them include the state secretariat, the state secretariat complex, Alfred Chesapeake Sports Complex, and others. In the wake-up of democratic rule in 1999, since the upland co-indigents of the state have been on the forefront of advocacy for upland and riverine power rotation in order to foster unity among citizens and ensure peaceful coexistence, prominent riverine enjoined leaders led by Alamo Toye Graham Douglas, the late Dr. Marshall Are of blessed memory, and others spearheaded the election of Governor Peter Odele on an upland person to have the first shot in the upland riverine political arrangement, with a deal to allow it to rotate, similarly to the riverine at the completion of its 2 terms. Although not officially gazetted, every political actor in Rivers State is aware of this political arrangement. This is similar to the point collaborated by the governor of Kaduna State, Madam Nasir El-Rufai, while commenting recently on Nigeria's political arrangements. He said, although the power shift arrangement among the various regions of the country is unconstitutional, it is, however, a political design that must be respected. With the emergence of Dr. Peter Odele in 1999 to 2007 as a beneficiary to the power rotation formula in the state, with the emergence of Dr. Peter Odele in 1999 to 2007 as beneficiary to the power rotation formula in the state, a feat achieved with the backing of frontline riverine politicians, the late Marshall Are, Alamo Graham Douglas, and others, one would have expected Dr. Peter Odele to also facilitate the rotation of power to the riverine after the completion of 8 years, 2 terms administration. However, that was not to be, as another upland brother from the Ikwere ethnic group, Barrister Celestine Omeya, took over as governor. By way of sheer divine providence, another Ikwere son, Rotimi Chibuike Amaechi, took over the government of the state after he secured a landmark judgment at the Supreme Court. Governor Amaechi served out his 2 tenures. Yet, in 2015, as though ignoring the existing political arrangement of upland riverine dichotomy in the state, another Ikwere son, Chief Barrister Nyesom Wike, emerged as governor of Rivers State. However, since power rotated to the upland about 20 years ago, are now saying that what is important is not where the governor comes from, but how projects are distributed equitably to all the communities in the state. According to the Governor Wike, the Vanguard newspaper publication dated April 9, 2019, headlined "Upland Riverine Differences No Longer Necessary in Rivers State." It appears apparent that some upland political decision makers are out to perfect a script designed to keep the upland in perpetual leadership of the state. In his words during an interview with organizers of Sikh Leadership Prize Award, Governor Wike is quoted in the said Vanguard publication as saying, "In this state, before all you see and hear was tribalism. That you are from the upland, you are from the riverine, and so people are not doing things as if we are one rivers. So we felt that one way we can make progress is if we see ourselves as one, and once that is done, then we have moved to the next step. So today our concern is that the issue of upland riverine is no longer necessary. We see ourselves as one river state, and it is necessary because of the projects and programs we are carrying out in all the local government areas in the state. So the issue of upland riverine differences is relegated to the background. So please to note, however, that after 24 years of upland rule in this state commenting the end of Governor Wike's tenure, holding ill to the above commentary will amount to selfishness and deceitful politicking aimed at destroying history and beclouding the minds of young and uninformed members of the public about the term upland riverine dichotomy, how it came about, its purpose, and how it's implemented. It will be totally unfair to be talking about abrogation of upland riverine dichotomy now that the upland, especially the Ikwere, would have held sway in the arms of affairs of the state for 25 years at the end of Wike's tenure in office by 2023. This statement by Governor Wike is simply by implication foreclosing his ill-conceived intention to plant a stooge to hold brief at the end of his administration in order to cover up his atrocities in cause of conducting the business of administration. And such move we must resist. If it is done, it portends great danger to the overall peace and stability of the state. It therefore behoves on all political actors in the state not to feign ignorance or play to the gallery on this matter, as if not properly handled, is capable of destroying the very fabric of our existence as one united river state. In all fairness, not all the uplands have benefited from the power ceded to the upland. Only the Oranges, Dr. Peter Odele, and the Ikwere, Celestino Meya, Rotimi Amechi, and Nyeto Wike, in this past 20 years have benefited greatly from the arrangement. Now the way forward. It is, however, unfortunate that the Ogonis, though a big part of the upland section of the state, and hosting several multinationals, and also playing host to some of the nation's key assets like the NNPC and the refinery, has been one of the worst hits in terms of environmental degradation, socio-economic, and political marginalization. However, according to the political history of the state in the past 22 years, it will only be fair to consider the riverine and most specifically the Calvaries to have a shot to occupy the brick house in the next political dispensation of the state. The Community Forum, which is the mouthpiece of the Calvary people, therefore seizes this medium to appeal to you, our Ogoni brothers and sisters, to lend us your support to enable us achieve this lofty height. If God tarries, by His grace, at the end of 2 tenure of 8 years, we also promise to rally around you to ensure that the Ogonis occupy the brick house. As I have stated earlier, the issue of upland riverine power rotation has become very necessary following growing concerns of concentration of development in mostly a section of the state. For instance, we have seen the construction of 8 flyover bridges sited in Port Harcourt and Obiako, It is however worrisome that none of the projects of such magnitude were captured in any budget of the state. Governor Wike, who has spent half of his lifetime in politics, ought to know better that no matter the good motive behind carrying out capital-intensive projects, government cannot unilaterally expend the resources of the state outside the fiscal policy framework of budgetary allocation for such projects. This singular act of the governor clearly shows that it does not seem to be under any form of obligation to give account to the people of the state on the way their collective resources are being recklessly expended on their behalf. At what point did Governor Wike suddenly realize that Port Harcourt and Obiako needed 8 flyover bridges to be constructed in less than 1 year after he had meticulously crafted and submitted the 2021 budget on the floor of the River State House of Assembly, which was passed into law afterwards? What was the urgency for? Well, let me help us out here, because I know the reason why it seemed to be so much under pressure to cover the whole of Port Harcourt and Obiako with flyovers. Sometime last year, Rivers people, through the offices of the Network of Defense of Democracy and Good Governance, NDDGG, called out the Rivers State government to give account for funds worth 118 billion naira withdrawn over Zenith Bank counters by officials by the Wike government, as published by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and in the front page of the Nation's newspaper. On that regard, the NDDGG wrote several letters to the state government demanding for accountability, but no response on the whereabouts of the said funds. The NDDGG then dragged the state government to court over the matter of which is still pending before the court. Response: the state government has done everything humanly possible to hunt down the members of the NDDGG by conceiving plans to training the leader up of the NDDGG and our members up with criminal allegations in order to get us out of the way. More so, as a way of desperately justifying the expenditure of the said 118 billion naira, Governor Wike began construction of flyovers everywhere in Port Harcourt and Obiako. It does not matter how long it will take, but we believe that Governor Wike will give account to Rivers people whether he likes it or not. The governor's lopsided development was clearly demonstrated in the recent commissioning of Sanpewa Bori Road, a project that is yet to be 60% completed. Okay, people, am I wrong or right? Because that project, from my investigation, shows that it was never been completed.
You are right. Bro.
With the enormous contributions of the Ogonis to the socio-economic well-being of the state, it is sad that there is no government presence in the Ogoni artists under the Wike-led administration. Only reputable firms like Julius Berger, Lubris Construction, handles projects in Port Harcourt and Obiako, but when carrying out projects in other LGAs of the state, the contracts will be awarded to friends and allies for political patronage. Then they will now in turn sublet these contracts to local artisans and manual laborers. Today, most communities in Eche, Oyibo, Andoni, Omuma, the Calabari axis are completely inaccessible by road. Meanwhile, the Trans-Calabari Road that has been captured in 2 budgets of the state and used as a campaign tool or a bait to get the support of the Calabaris in the 2015 governorship election, and other projects captured in the budget are yet to see the light of the day as I speak. Completing the abandoned bridge linking Okrika to Port Harcourt and constructing new bridges to link our riverine communities to urban centers of the state will reduce associated risk of lives and property to the constant threat of sea piracy on our waterways. Devastating floods in mostly the Orange areas of Aoda East and West Onanga, Asaritoro, Akulga, and some southeastern communities of Okoni are regular occurrence. Teachers of demonstration schools in state-owned tertiary institutions are deliberately being denied their 5-year salary. Pensioners and retirees in the state have not been left out in the suffering deliberately inflicted on them by the Governor Wike-led administration. The list goes on and on. It is to this end it has become imperative for us, the Calabaris and our Ogoni brothers, in the struggle to have this treaty in order to form a political bloc to outnumber them and enthrone God-fearing and credible leadership that will ensure an even spread of development in the state, as election can only be won by the majority. We particularly appeal to other of our riverine politicians in the state to work closely with our well-meaning upland brothers and sisters, especially from Ogoni, to ensure that power rotates to the riverine in the next political dispensation. Otherwise, we will see the emergence of a political stooge who will hold the brief for this tyrannic and oppressive leaders who are hell-bent on holding on to power for 32 years. We also enjoin you all citizens and well-meaning people of Rivers State to stand with us to fight and liberate Rivers State from this tyrannic, oppressive, selfish, and wicked leadership, which has perfected plans to plant a proxy in the name of a loyalist to help cover up the mess created by this evil administration. By the grace of God, we shall win. Yes, we can. Thank you and God bless you.